first of all, welcome to my replay viewers. How are you, everyone? Welcome. Hey, how are you? Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining, everybody. I'm going to give us a little time to have everybody join today. And all of a sudden it looks a little dark, so I hope you can see me. Yay! Hey, Carissa. Thank you for the hearts. Can you see me okay, Carissa? I decided to do my scope outside because it's so beautiful. So we have a plane going over, so we'll wait a few minutes before the plane, after the plane goes by. But it's just a lovely environment outside. Oh, thank you, Carissa. You're so cute. Thank you so much. I'm really loving the environment outside for doing scopes. Oh, thank you so much. The inside of my home office, I love my home office, but it's not exactly the way I want it soon. Oh, thank you for coming by. Hi. And so I'm working on it, but I'm loving the outside environment. I'm watching a lot of scopers, you guys, and I'm noticing that they're scoping outside, and I think it's really nice to see that. Thank you, Carissa, for sharing on Twitter. I appreciate that. And again, I want to welcome our replay viewers also, but welcome to all of you for joining me on this scope on lesson planning. I want to tell you a little bit about what I do for those of you that might not know me. You can find me at, and I'm going to share this with you really quickly. You can find me at lisadabs.com, Teaching with Soul. And I normally have my little sign up, but today I didn't bring my little sign. And just quickly, I'll let you know, for those of you that don't know me, I was a school principal, and I left the principalship to become an education consultant and branch out on my own and do some work around supporting and mentoring new teachers, because you guys, that's my passion. As a school principal, I hired over 100 teachers who worked with me in the 19 years that I was a school principal, and I worked in places of poverty and places with high English language learners. So friends, when I talk with you, I come from a place of knowledge. I don't want you to think, oh, that lady, she has been out of the classroom for a long time. No, I'm actually still in the classroom too, and I'll tell you about that in just a minute. But this is a place that I come from, a place of passion, of wanting to share the things that I observed my new teachers doing successfully, but also the things where they struggled. And I don't want new teachers or pre-service teachers to struggle. I want new teachers to thrive. Friends, I see, again, I'm going to repeat this, I see so many tweets on Twitter. I see so many Facebook posts on, oh, new teachers need to survive. Friends, I don't believe in that. I believe that you can have everything you need to thrive if you find the right mentor, if you find the right connection. So that's why I'm going to start to do these scopes, especially at back to school time. Oh, and thank you for the hearts, because I want new teachers to thrive. And you might be a teacher who's been teaching like 5 years. I think, Carissa, you have been. But maybe you're still finding your rhythm. Maybe you're still looking for just the right way to do things. And in this case, we're talking about lesson plans today. Or maybe you're super experienced, but you're helping a new teacher. And so that's why I'm doing these scopes. And maybe you're an adjunct professor like I am, working with pre-service teachers and watching them struggle. Friends, I teach a Math for Young Children's course at a local university, and let me tell you, my pre-service teachers have to write 5 lesson plans, and it is not easy. So I want to do this scope today and my back to school scopes on some really important areas for teachers. And tonight we're going to do a quick scope on lesson planning. So earlier I shared in my Instagram feed the 5 tips that I think are really important for a new teacher. So let me break them down for you again. I'm going to talk about making sure that you have an objective for your lesson, number 1. And if somebody could write these in the comments, that would be so awesome. So number 1, set your lesson objective. Number 2, make sure that you organize your materials. Number 3, define your procedures. Make sure that you know, thank you so much, that you know what it is and how it is you're going to do it, A through Z, 1 through 15. Number 4, that you have an assessment built in. It can be something complex or something simple. Oh, thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. And lastly, that you're building in time to reflect on the lesson. That you're building in time for not only you to reflect on the lesson, but for students to reflect on the lesson. So let's talk about those again really quickly. Thank you so much, friends, for putting those in the comments. So you're going to set your lesson objective, number 1, organize your materials, number 2, define your lesson procedures, how you're going to do things. You're going to have an assessment built in. Oh, thank you so much. And you're going to reflect on the lesson. So let's go through those 5 steps in just a teeny bit more detail. I'm not one that likes to be on a Periscope for like 25 to 30 minutes. So I want to make sure that these are quick tips that are accessible, that teachers don't feel like, oh my gosh, I just can't believe I'm here listening to this lady keep talking. So know that if they seem a little quick, that's why. I want to make sure that I'm really mindful of your time and mindful of our replay viewers' time as well. So let's talk about the first one, setting your lesson objective. When I teach at the university and I teach my pre-service teachers about lesson planning, one of the biggest areas, friends, that they fall down on in not being able to write their lesson plan well is having an objective. What do we want the students to know and be able to do? Simple, right? But I review hundreds of lesson plans, friends, not only for my pre-service teachers, but in the years that I spent as a principal. And I would be combing through those lesson plans and saying, where is the objective? What are we going to have students do? What are we expecting students to learn and be able to do? And friends, they were gone. They were missing from that lesson plan. So if you're a new teacher or you're supporting a new teacher, help them to know this piece. Help them to know that a lesson objective, very simply said, we could go into great detail, but we're not going to do that. I'm not going to do that on this scope, is what is it that we want students to know and be able to do at the end of our lesson? Now, will we have to reteach this lesson? Maybe. Will we have to reteach this lesson, let's say in math, 2 or 3 times? Maybe. But regardless, setting the objective is key. So it may sound super easy, but trust me, it's really not. So let's make sure that we know that we backwards map our outcome. So what we want students to know and be able to do, doing it through a backwards mapping process. Here's the end result. This is where we want students to be. Let's just say large. I'm going to talk about math because that's what I teach at the university. So we want them to be able to learn how to add. Let's just say globally. So what are the steps in the lesson that we're going to take to begin to have our students be able to add? Maybe it's 2 digits, maybe it's more complex if you're at a high school level. I'm sure adding at the high school level wouldn't be a piece, but let's just say you're teaching an algebraic equation, so you're teaching a calculus piece. So what is it that you want students to know and be able to do at the end of the lesson? And if you're unsure about how to write an objective, find a mentor to help you. I don't want to say just Google it. Find a mentor to help you. This is really, really important. And then as you develop your objectives, let your students be your guide. If you're doing this lesson and you find that at the end of the lesson, we're going to get to the other points in a few minutes here, students aren't getting it, that's okay. That's part of the process. That's part of the process. So number 1, set the lesson objective. What are students going to know and be able to do? Okay, let's talk about number 2. Oh, and thank you for the hearts. Organize your lesson materials. Okay, friends, here I am, school principal. I go into my new teacher's class to do his or her first observation. I'm sitting at the back of the room. I'm trying not to make them nervous. Friends, they are grasping at straws. Why? Because they didn't take the time to organize their materials. They didn't take the time to grab, let's just say, the book they're teaching from, the iPad they're using to teach from, the Google Doc they're going to use, the flannel board in the case of a very early teaching experience with preschool students. They didn't have their materials around them. Unifix cubes, whatever it is, whiteboards, the Promethean board isn't up and ready. You know, I could go on and on. Have your list of materials ready in your lesson plan and have them there accessible wherever it is. Obviously, I want you to walk around the room as you're teaching, but to begin with, you need to be able to have those there. Yes, oh my gosh, friend. it was so uncomfortable for me to watch them scramble. Oh my goodness. So have your materials, your Unifix cubes, your resources, your hands-on materials right there available for you to use. And then think the lesson all the way through. So as you're writing the objective, boom, 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 boom. What are the 5 materials you need for the lesson? 3 materials you need for the lesson. The Promethean board is fired up and ready to go. Your just simple whiteboard is ready, or your simple book is ready to go. So again, organize your lessons and think about what is the technology or the hardware or the applications that you're going to be using. Let's just say if it's very tech oriented or you're using technology to support your pedagogy, then make sure you have it ready. Make sure the app you're using is available. Make sure your iPad is there, your Chromebook is ready, their Chromebooks are ready. Are you using clickers? You know, we could go on, and I don't want to do that, but you understand. Have your resources, have your materials available, and make sure that you double check those as you're getting ready to teach your kids. So set your lesson objective, what students need to know, be able to do. Number 2, have your lesson materials ready. Okay, number 3, define your procedures. Okay, what I mean by that is, what will the lesson look like? What are you going to do? How is it going to flow? You need to know from point 1 to point 5, from point A to point C, if it's a simple lesson. How is that lesson going to flow? As I'm teaching my students at the university level to write their lessons, these are so important. And this is what I tell them. If I can't pick up your lesson and teach it all the way through and teach from it, it's not a good lesson. And some of them will be looking at me and a little distressed, and I said, I can't teach from this lesson. Anyone, friends, should be able to pick up your lesson and teach it. That is the importance of having those procedures all lined up in your lesson plan, from step 1 to step 2. So teaching and learning activities are part of the process. Scripting those ahead of time. If you're not good at memorizing those things, that's okay. Have a clipboard there with your lesson plan available, with the resources, with the step-by-step directions, so that you know what it is you're going to do from point A to point B. Especially, friends, as a new teacher, you know your principal or your assistant principal or a coach that actually does evaluation is going to be in there evaluating you. So you want to make sure that you shine. I want to make sure that you shine. So have your procedures, have your step-by-step directions ready to go. And someone shared, Mr. Scott, you shared about transitions. Oh, I say that to my new teachers all the time, my pre-service teachers all the time. Where's the transition? You just said, okay, close your books now and do what? So transitions are key, and they are part of those procedures. And then how are you going to guide students through? So in those lesson procedures, what are your guiding questions? How are you going to spark student interest? How are you going to grab them so they're interested in your lesson and you pull them in? So all of those pieces are part of your procedures. Okay, number 4, have a lesson assessment. So when I'm teaching my pre-service teachers, I let them know, so how are you going to know the lesson worked? How are you going to know that it was successful? How are you going to know that you reached your outcome? So some of them will be scratching their head and saying, oh yes, that's right. And what I mean by that, friends, is do some kind of a simple assessment that lets you know that kids got it. Maybe not everybody, but that the majority of your kids got it. And if you do a little simple assessment and the majority of the kids didn't get it, that's okay. But you know, you have feedback, you have insight, and there's tons of ways to do that. From the very complex assessment that you do, a formative assessment maybe, to a much simpler assessment that you do with a whiteboard, or again with a technology piece like clickers or Kahoot, or some kind of game that you might feel comfortable doing as a new teacher. But maybe as a new teacher you don't want to add all that technology yet, and that's okay. Maybe you're just using a whiteboard. Maybe kids all have a whiteboard. And as you're asking questions or you're doing something fun, you're able to see that your kids got it, and you're able to see who didn't. So you need to consider having an assessment that's going to work for you, and maybe doing something different like an exit slip, or maybe again you're going to use a whiteboard, or maybe you're going to ask a fun questions as you walk around. Maybe you're going to play a game. All of those things are assessments that work. So make sure that your lesson plan, number 4, has some kind of either very simple assessment or, if necessary, a complex one. And then lastly, number 5, I want you to reflect on your lesson. Let me read this to you from my book. A successful teacher is the one who takes time to consistently evaluate and reevaluate his or her pedagogy. Friends, reflecting is what we need to do in our practice. We don't serve our practice, the teaching profession, nationally and internationally, when we don't reflect on what we did as instructors. When I'm working with my pre-service teachers, at the end of the evening, I will sit back and think through my video, which is my video in my mind of everything that went, my movie of me standing here, standing there, sharing, and I take notes at the very end, what it was that I thought I did well and what it was that I thought I needed to improve on the next time. We are never at a place where we can stop growing. We are always needing to grow, but as a new teacher, your piece in terms of reflecting is really key. So how are you going to do it? Is it okay to just do it in your mind? Maybe, but I'm going to suggest that you do one of these particular ideas. Maybe set up a Google Doc where you reflect on the lesson. Maybe open up an Evernote page where you begin to use Evernote as a reflecting tool. Maybe you decide to blog and use that as your reflection. And maybe your blog's private and it's just for you, and that's okay. Maybe you decide to do a little video and speak to yourself. Maybe you're going to use a private Periscope to speak to just a friend to say, oh my gosh, I did this lesson and it was awesome. Or it didn't work. I didn't feel comfortable doing it. So find a medium, find a way to make sure that you reflect. I love tools like Evernote and Google Docs and blogging, just a simple few. There's tons more we could talk about that will help you to do that. And one of the things that I love about Evernote, friends, is that you can speak into Evernote really quickly and say, math lesson on addition, this went well, this did not. The other piece of technology that I really love is Google Keep. Google Keep is so amazing, you guys, at being able to not only reflect on a lesson, but do a ton of other things. And I want to do a little scope about Google Keep probably sometime next week because I'm really loving it. And I'm thinking that it could be a profoundly great tool for new teachers. So friends, those are my 5 tips for back to school lesson planning for new teachers. And let me talk through them one more time. Number 1, set your objective. Number 2, organize your lessons. Number 3, make sure you have your procedures down. Number 4, have some kind of a lesson assessment. And number 5, reflect, reflect, reflect. Do some self-reflection, reflect with a colleague, reflect with a mentor, which will help you to grow and develop yourself in your practice. Friends, it was so great to be with you here this afternoon talking about lesson planning and the importance of lesson planning. I'd love to know how you all lesson plan. I would love for you to share on the NT Chat hashtag on Twitter, if you're on Twitter, what you do for lesson planning. I'd love for you to join my Google Plus community. It's at New Teacher Chat Google Plus community. You can find it there. I'd love for you to join my Facebook group and let me know how your lesson planning. Oh, thank you for the hearts. And then you can also join my group on Remind, where and you can look for it at the @ NT Chat on online and look for my Remind class there as well. Let me know how you're lesson planning. Let me know the kinds of things that you're doing to provide lesson plans. Let me know the kind of things though that you need too. I've developed these communities and I'm missing some of your voices. I'm missing some of my new teacher and pre-service teacher voices. There's so many great educators, friends. I tweeted that today in my Google Plus community, sharing such good stuff, and yet I don't see any new teachers there. So tell me what your lane is. Tell me where you're finding support, and I would love to have you join me. Thanks again for watching.